Hey, welcome back to Weeby Kids. We're up in the forest today. We came up here because we want to tell you a story. Now, this forest that we come to, it's a pine forest. Probably 95% of the trees here are all the same type of tree. And have you ever noticed that all trees are different? Some are very, very tall and thin, and some are quite short and bushy. Well, this story that I'm going to tell you is about a willow tree. And willow trees are beautiful trees, lots and lots of different varieties of willow tree. But most willow trees have very, very bendy branches. Now, some of you may have heard of this story, some of you may not. But if you go to your bedroom window, or a window in your grandparents' house, or an auntie or an uncle's, and you look out way off in the distance, you will see a hill. And some of you may have been to that hill. And if you do climb to the top of that hill and then look off into the distance again, far off you will see a second hill. And if you climb to the top of that hill and then walk as far as your little legs will carry you, and then a little bit further, which most people don't do, you will arrive at a cave. Now, this cave was a particularly dark cave, and dank and damp and smelly. And in that cave lived a lady. Now, this lady had a long, crooked chin with a big wart, and hairs came out of the wart, and they were so big that they would tickle her under the arm. But she didn't laugh. She never laughed. She was very, very, very miserable. She also had a long, crooked nose. She had a pointed hat, a pet cat, a cauldron, and a broomstick. Yes, that's right, this lady was a witch. Now, we all know that in the world there are two types of witches. There are good witches and there are bad witches. Well, this witch was very, very, very bad. She was the worst type of witch. The one thing which made her more and more and more angry and more miserable was when she went out and she saw lots of smiley faces. She despised happiness. She just wanted everybody to be mean and angry like her. And she would sit in her cave day after day, night after night, trying to come up with a way that she could get rid of all of the happiness from the world. And she stayed in that cave, eating the slugs and the snails and drinking the muddy water that dripped through the ceiling, thinking and thinking and thinking of a way to make this happen. And then one night she came up with an idea. She got on her broomstick and she sped out of her cave. She went down the hill, round through the forest and into the local town. And there, with a big bag, she started to collect as many terrible things as she could find. She flew down behind the shops and she picked up old crisp wrappers and tin cans and chip wrappers, and she stuffed them into her bag. She then flew down by the river, and in the water was lots of bottles and scum and slime on the top, and she scooped it all up and she put it into her bag. She then flew down through the parks, and hanging in the parks were lots of plastic bags, and she grabbed those and she shoved them into her bag, and her bag was bulging full. And when it was bulging full, she set off back to her cave. But on the way, she decided that she would fly up into the sky and collect all the smog and the smoke from the aeroplanes and the cars and the factories. And she shoved them all into her bag. And when she got back to her cave, she got her cauldron and she emptied all of these terrible things into her cauldron. And she got her broomstick and she stuck the end of the broomstick into the cauldron and she began to stir. And she stirred and stirred. And as she stirred, the potion became thicker and thicker. And she stirred and stirred, and the potion became blacker and blacker. And she stirred and stirred, and the potion became smellier and smellier, until it was the thickest, blackest, smelliest potion anybody had ever seen. Then she knew it was ready. She reached up onto a shelf and she grabbed 2 bottles. She scooped the potion into the bottles and put the lid on. She put one under each arm. She got on her broomstick and whoosh, she sped out of the cave again. And this time she went down the hill, along the river, through the town, over the distant hills, until she came to the mountains. And there she flew to the top of the tallest mountain. And when she got there, she kept going higher and higher and higher, to the place in the sky where the air turns cold and the clouds are made. When she got there, she took the lid off the first bottle. She took the lid off the second bottle, and she began to empty the potion into the sky. And as she emptied the potion into the sky, 2 huge black clouds began to form. And with a gust of wind and a clap of thunder, they crashed together and it began to rain. At first the rain was really, really light, just like this. But it got heavier and heavier and heavier, until it was the heaviest rain anybody had ever seen. The raindrops were the size of pine cones, and they were black and smelly. And as they fell down, a terrible thing happened. You see, first the raindrops began to fall on the trees, and all the trees went from bright and happy to terribly, terribly sad. Then the rain fell on the animals, the badger and the fox and the deer and the wolf and the cat and the dog and the squirrel. And they all went from really happy and playful to very, very, very sad. And then the rain began to fall on the people. First it was the mums and dads and grannies and granddads. And as the rain hit them, they went from really happy to terribly, terribly sad. And now this is the worst part of the story, so brace yourself. You see, next the rain began to fall on the children. And as it hit the children, they went from very, very, very happy to really, really, really sad. Said the witch, for her potion had worked and her plan had come true. She'd washed all of the happiness from the world with her terrible rain, and she flew off back to her cave. And the world stayed like that for the next day, and the next week, and the next month, and the next year, and on and on and on and on. The world was a very, very sad place. Some children were born and grew up never knowing what happiness was. Can you believe that? But you'll be glad to know that one day it all changed. On one grey, murky day, there was a young girl who had a strong heart and an adventurous spirit. And she was out on an adventure in the forest. And she was very, very sad, because everybody was very sad. But she was wandering through the forest and she was climbing the trees. And as she climbed the trees, she noticed how each tree was a little bit different. The bark was different on them. The structure of the branches were different. And then she looked around and she noticed some flowers drooped over, looking very, very sad. But she also noticed how each flower was different too. Different shapes and different colours. And then she sat herself down, looked around, maybe tried to see a startled frog or a sad snail. And while she was sat there, she noticed a rock. a rock that seemed to be calling out to her, a rock a little bit like this one here. And she went over to the rock. And when she got there, she took a look at it. Something was saying to lift it up, to look underneath. And as she lifted the rock, underneath she saw something she had never seen before. Underneath the rock, she found a glitter worm. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever seen a glitter worm before, but glitter worms are about this long, and they are all the colours of the rainbow. And they are also covered with glitter. But it wasn't the magical colours or the glitter that amazed the girl about the glitter worm. It was something else. You see, on the glitter worm's face, there was a smile. The little girl said, "What is that on your face? It is so beautiful, and I have never seen anything like it." And the glitter worm said, "It is a smile." She said, "Yes, but how did you get it?" And the glitter worm explained. He said, "When the witch made her terrible potion and washed all the happiness away, I hid here under this rock, waiting for somebody like you to find me." The little girl said, "Yes, but can I get a smile too?" And the glitter worm said, "Yes, for I know where all of the happiness is. Follow me." And the glitter worm led the little girl through the forest until they came to the base of a big, beautiful tree. And the glitter worm looked up at the tree. He said, "This tree, this is the happiness tree. When the witch washed all of the happiness away, it went into the ground and this tree soaked it up into its branches." The little girl said, "Yes, but how do I get a smile?" And the glitter worm went off and he climbed up the tree. He went higher and higher and higher. And from the top of the tree, he nibbled off a branch that fell to the ground. And the glitter worm said to the girl, "Pick up the branch." He said, "And first of all, begin to soften it in your hands. Make it into a smile." He said, "But don't stop there. Make it into a hoop, like so. A hoop about the same size as your head. And then put your hand through and take the thick end and weave it inside and out and back in. And do the same with the thin end. Bring it in and out." And the little girl did this, although she wasn't sure why. And she wove the stick in and out until she was left with a structure like this. And the glitter worm said, "This is a crown from the happiness tree." He said, "Whoever wears the crown from the happiness tree will regain their smile." "Go on," he said, "put it on." And the little girl took a deep breath. She took the crown and she placed it on her head. And as she put it on her head, her smile came back. "Wow," she said, "this feels incredible." All the muscles in her face changed. But it wasn't just the muscles in her face that changed. Her heart opened up like a big, beautiful butterfly. And the whole world changed. "This is amazing," she said. And the glitter worm said, "Yes, for that is the feeling of happiness." And the little girl said, "But I want all my friends and family to feel this way too." And the glitter worm said, "Yes, bring them. Bring them all to the happiness tree. Make crowns, and one crown at a time, happiness will spread all around the world." And they did. And one at a time people came and they spent time sitting under the trees and their happiness came back. And one by one, happiness spread across the whole world. Now, I always say that every good story has a good meaning as well. And I often say to people, what is the meaning of the happiness tree? And people said back to me, the meaning of the happiness tree is to always be happy. But I thought, no, that isn't the meaning of the happiness tree. The meaning of the happiness tree is that some days we feel happy and some days we feel sad. And both of that is okay. Feeling sad is okay and feeling happy is okay. But one thing that's really, really important is that we know that on our sad days, we know how to get back to our happy days. And we know that even when we're having sad days, happy days will return. So I hope this is a happy day for you. I hope you enjoyed the story. We look forward to seeing you again at We Be Kids. Take care. Bye.